Hello, my name is Seung Lee from the Artificial Intelligence Development Department. Today, what I'd like to talk about is actually the concepts of agentic AI and integrated security platforms have already been explained quite a bit in the previous keynote. So, in my case, since AhnLab AI Plus has just launched, I want to focus on how this AhnLab AI Plus will be applied to security operations. In the future, security operations are expected to shift to a system that proactively detects, analyzes, and responds to threats based on AI. And in line with this, AhnLab is actively developing AhnLab AI Plus, and we've prepared a comprehensive demo to show you how it can be applied to various security operations. I thought there might not be enough content if I only talked about security operations, so I'll also include a prologue or a brief introduction. So, as a prologue, I'll briefly talk about AI. Since this has already been discussed a lot earlier, I think it would be repetitive to spend too much time on it. I'll keep the explanation as simple as possible. Here's an example I can't leave out. This scene is from the second match between AlphaGo and Lee Sedol. The moment the 37th move of the second match was played, Lee Sedol fell deep into thought, left the matchroom, and after pondering the move for 15 minutes, he returned. At that time, the commentators, they said, "We can't understand this. Why did AlphaGo make that move? It must be a mistake." That's what they said. But that day's match ended with AlphaGo's victory. And that 37th move was later praised as a divine move. It was a move that humans couldn't understand, but it turned out to be a stroke of genius. Mustafa Suleyman, the co-founder of DeepMind, described this moment as the point when AI was able to make strategic decisions beyond human capability and demonstrated creativity. He considers it a very important moment. He sees it as a major technological milestone, since it showcased an idea that even the most famous Go players over thousands of years had never thought of. This is also mentioned in the book Nexus by Yuval Harari, published in 2024. It is regarded as the decisive moment when AI began to be seen not just as a simple calculation tool, but as an autonomous strategic entity. Now, it's being said that we can realize an alien way of thinking that goes beyond human imagination. A highly advanced decision-making of AI is being evaluated as a very significant technological advancement, since it will be difficult for humans to understand from our perspective. So, we believe we are facing a truly major transformation. In the past, there were various tools. There were databases, big data, and all sorts of tools in IT, right? And there were also many inventions. With these tools, the creator knew exactly how and why they worked. Everything could be explained. But now, it seems that won't be the case anymore. As AI technology continues to advance, it will reach a level where it can no longer be interpreted by the abilities of a single person and will become incomprehensible. In the past, tools didn't have intelligence, but now AI is implementing intelligence, and as it reaches a level of intelligence that's difficult for humans to interpret, we will face a major challenge. How do we interpret tools that think on a higher level than us? So, what will happen to security? There's a place called HackerOne. HackerOne is the world's largest bug bounty platform. A bug bounty is a system where companies pay rewards for reporting vulnerabilities in their systems. There are over 600,000 white hat hackers registered on HackerOne, and they're active in more than 170 countries around the world. As of 2022, the total accumulated rewards have exceeded $230 million, and from 2014 to 2021, more than 125,000 public vulnerabilities have been reported to 500 companies, showing a lot of activity. And also, they rank the number of discovered vulnerabilities and their level of importance. They also rank the white hat hackers. And in August 2025, I checked the US leaderboard, and the #1 spot was held by XBOW. And what's important is that XBOW isn't a person, but an AI. XBOW is a startup founded in 2024. It's a company that provides an offensive security platform based on AI pen testing agents and HackerBoss. But in just a few months, it reported over 1,000 vulnerabilities and rose to the top of the leaderboard. Originally, you would hire a traditional red team for this. You'd negotiate how to diagnose and attack vulnerabilities on a single system, and on average, it would cost about $18,000. And then, it would take several weeks to complete. When you test a single system like that, you might find 1 or 2 vulnerabilities. But in just 3 or 4 months, the AI automatically identified and reported over 1,000 vulnerabilities. And it took first place on the leaderboard. This trend is on the rise. From around March to May of 2025, the number of reports surpassed 1,000. The AI identified vulnerabilities, tested attacks, and generated reports at machine scale. I think this is going to have some significant implications. To explain this part in more depth, there are a few things I need to mention in advance. This is about the relationship between attack and defense in cybersecurity. As Director Kim Chang-hee mentioned earlier, the relationship between attack and defense is one of coevolution. So, attackers are in the position of finding vulnerabilities and developing attack tactics. Defenders, on the other hand, are in the position of detecting attacks and coming up with countermeasures, so both sides are constantly exchanging and refining their tactics in this coevolutionary relationship. And in these two main areas, the key players are, of course, people. So, the structure was such that coevolution happened slowly, within the speed and cognitive limits of humans. But now, agentic AIs like XBOW are starting to carry out these operations at machine scale. Since AI was used for simulated penetration testing, you could say it was a kind of pre-diagnosis or a positive use. But if this is misused, it means that AI could develop attack code and actually disable the company's system. Although it's not included in these materials, at the end of August, an actual attack called prompt lock was announced by ESET. In this case, an LLM was used to send a fixed prompt that triggered ransomware behavior. What's more, it operates so dynamically that it can't be detected with static IOCs. This has now been announced as the first case of ransomware implemented using AI. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to include this in the materials. So, attacking with AI is no longer some distant future, it's already becoming a reality. Now, attackers are launching rapid, automated attacks at machine scale, so defenders can't just sit back and do nothing. From the defender's perspective, it's impossible to take on AlphaGo barehanded. That's why we need to establish a security defense system based on agentic AI that can think strategically. And in the actual market, AI SOC analysis agents have started to appear one after another. For example, Dropzone AI was released in 2023. After that, several major vendors also began to introduce SOC agents. So, it seems that from now on, the main driver of evolution will shift from humans to AI. And besides AlphaGo, AlphaZero was also developed. AlphaGo was created based on game record data. But AlphaZero improved itself by having AIs play against each other, and that's how it mastered the game of Go. In this way, as attacker AI and defender AI compete and evolve together, the speed of coevolution could accelerate, and I think this process will move in directions that become increasingly difficult for humans to understand. I believe we also need to hurry up with our defenses. So, from the defender's perspective, what exactly is the agentic AI that we want to implement? Let me briefly explain agentic AI. As mentioned earlier, agentic AI is an autonomous agent that can break down complex tasks on its own, manage long-term memory, and adjust its execution strategies. I'll explain the concept in more detail by comparing how this differs from traditional approaches. First, in process automation, you have a certain process and data, and you create a static automation script for it. And then you just execute it statically. And with supervised machine learning, you build a model using training data. After deploying this model, it simply performed classification tasks. When you enter a generative AI prompt, the LLM generates various types of content like text, images, or audio. In a way, these have mostly been used as productivity tools with fixed functions. In the case of agentic AI, the AI actively plans, takes actions, reflects on the outcomes, and then replans in order to achieve a user's specific goals. This series of processes is carried out by the AI itself, making it a more proactive concept. As I mentioned earlier, rather than being just a tool, it becomes an autonomous agent that establishes its own strategies, essentially AI for AI. Yes, and LLMs are also included in generative AI. Agentic AI also incorporates LLMs, so when we ask what role LLMs play, agentic AI can be interpreted as an intelligent computer architecture centered around LLMs. This is something OpenAI co-founder Karpathy posted on Twitter in November 2023. He said that LLMs serve the role of a CPU. That's what he was talking about. Just like a CPU, you need to assemble memory, attach hardware storage, connect various tools via PCI Express, and use a network card to communicate with other computers. Basically, all these different features and tools of traditional computer architecture need to be integrated. Starting in 2023, technologies like the MCP8-way protocol and various others began to emerge in 2024 and 2025. As things become more systematized like traditional computer architecture, agentic AI is also advancing. In this way, we are moving from automation, where machines perform repetitive tasks, to a stage of intelligence, where machines search for optimal paths and autonomously adapt to changes in their environment. So, to explain exactly what the difference is between automation and intelligence, I racked my brain and came up with a funny example. Yes, it's the classic example of a husband running errands. The wife tells her programmer husband to buy some milk. She adds, if they have eggs, buy 6. But the husband comes back with 6 cartons of milk. What happened here? If you write this out as code, it looks like this. He did buy the milk, though. If the condition if there are eggs is met, he changes the quantity of milk to 6. This is like the husband running the code statically in his head. That's how he ended up buying 6 cartons of milk. Of course, in real life, you get scolded for this. In a way, moving from automation to intelligence means incorporating technology that enables understanding of context and flexible decision-making. That's how you can think about it. It's not just that kind of static code anymore. So, can you just use the same AI in that way? No, you can't. One of the most important aspects when transitioning from generative AI to agentic AI is how you implement it, and that comes down to data. So, to clarify the distinction between generative AI and agentic AI a bit more, generative AI is, in a way, an AI that has learned a lot about declarative knowledge about what something is, the concepts themselves. So, its function is to explain or express certain concepts. On the other hand, agentic AI not only understands concepts, but also learns the know-how how to do it part by turning it into data. This allows the AI to learn and plan for itself how to carry out tasks to solve specific problems. Yes, in this way, it creates data, learns from it, and implements it so that it can plan and execute actions. The following comment is from the movie The Matrix. It's something Morpheus says to Neo in the film. He says that knowing the path and walking the path are two different things. It's not just about simply knowing. Actually walking the path means you'll experience various trials and errors, and along the way, you'll think about which workarounds to take, look for alternatives, and make adjustments as you go. Now, AI is learning this series of know-hows through data, and with this, it can autonomously carry out tasks on its own. We're trying to apply security operations based on that kind of agentic AI. First, let me introduce you to AhnLab AI Plus, which is a security platform based on agentic AI. It's a security analysis platform based on agentic AI that has learned threat intelligence and analysis reports. Centered around agentic AI, it organically connects and integrates, serving as the core infrastructure for security operations and analysis. There are articles like this, but to put it simply, if you look at something like GitHub Copilot, it writes code really well, right? In a way, it's learned from GitHub data. There, you have project documentation, code, various design details, and both declarative and procedural knowledge about what code was written to handle which tasks in which processes. After learning all of that, now, from the perspective of generative AI, not only can it generate code and write comments, but if you give it a specification, it can actually do the development itself. It's the same here. For security agents as well, the know-how AhnLab has accumulated over 30 years of security analysis and operations is embedded in threat intelligence and analysis reports. We extract data from these documents and use it to train our models. In this way, generative AI is not only used to explain threats and write reports, but also to serve as an agentic AI that performs security diagnosis, analysis, and response tasks. This is a structural diagram. Let me highlight just a few key points. We are building a cybersecurity defense system where AI collaborates like a team. So, it's a multi-agent system. It's structured so that agents with different roles cooperate, process tasks in a distributed manner, and solve problems together. There are product operation agents that handle detection and response operations, triage agents that diagnose threats, and most importantly, there are agents that identify and prioritize which threats need to be looked at first, filter them so further analysis can be done, and investigation agents that conduct additional research to determine whether a detected threat is actually real. These various agents with different roles are combined to work collaboratively, and during this collaboration process, the orchestration agent coordinates everything. By doing so, it enables the execution of an integrated security operations workflow. And in that process, a guard LLM is applied to reliably and safely restrict and control the responses of the LLM. Now, let me explain in a bit more depth how this is actually applied to security operations at AhnLab. In the past, products have been provided mainly focusing on detection and response as a rapid response system for known threats and attacks. And within these products, AI was used as one of the methodologies for detection. So, we've incorporated machine learning detection models into many of our products. That's how it has been so far. However, when these products are actually implemented in on-site security systems, there is a shortage of security professionals on site to analyze security threats and manage operations based on these products. So, AhnLab provides expert services for security analysis and operational processes based on the detection and response systems of its products. That's why many of AhnLab's security analysts, they continuously and diligently curate detection rules, response rules, and comprehensive playbooks, applying them directly to the product to ensure a truly effective and robust response. They also prepare and share AhnLab security analysis reports. In addition to focusing on detecting and responding to threats identified by the product, we also collect and review various external threat intelligence. If our security analysts identify any threats in advance, we distribute that information as policies to the product, making every effort to enable a faster response. And we also provide pre-assessment services. We offer these as part of our consulting services. Currently, we provide penetration testing as a consulting service to identify vulnerabilities and prevent potential attack threats in advance. In this way, we provide a full range of security products and services, including designing security systems on site, pre-assessment services, and security analysis and operations services offered by our experts. At this point, there is a very high dependence on specialized personnel. So, we are currently operating on a human scale. Because of this, but now, the era of AI-driven hacking has already arrived. So, in order to respond to a larger volume of threats more quickly at machine scale, changes in our processes are required. This is the part we're focusing on. We are integrating the functions that make up the security analysis and operation process into a single platform. Next, The data and expert services provided for security analysis and operations in the platform environment are currently at a human scale, but this part will be provided as a machine-scale service based on agentic AI. In this way, we aim to offer security analysis and operations services based on AI to improve the efficiency and quality of the security platform. The AIs that are built here combine AhnLab's internal and external threat intelligence with the know-how of security analysts to create the AI. These AIs include an agent in ASM and pen testing that scans for vulnerabilities and writes attack code to run simulations, a triage agent that diagnoses threats, sets priorities, performs TTP matching and scoring, and an investigation agent that identifies vulnerabilities. It analyzes attack paths, then maps out response and defense strategies, and maps out mitigation strategies. These are agents that conduct additional investigations. By checking TI, threat intelligence, information, these agents conduct further investigations to determine whether something is an actual threat. Next, there are product operation agents, which are agents linked to each product that integrate detection and response operations. By combining multiple agents like these, we are able to carry out the entire process. And right now, we're continuously developing agents through our AI portal. Unfortunately, we can't open the AI portal to the public. We're still incubating it internally, and we haven't yet applied agentic AI to our products. Since we've developed agentic AI to a certain extent internally, we've made a video to show you most of these features. The next example is this. Among the risks that occurred over the past 7 days, those related to certain users. It's a request to investigate which devices are involved, in other words, who the user associated with the risk is, and which devices were affected by threats originating from this user. This is an example we're creating based on the assumption of an XDR agent. So, based on that user's single request, we plan a series of steps, looking up threat information, checking which users are related to that threat, and finding out which devices this user is using. While considering the original purpose behind the user's request, the thinking process unfolds like this. And with that plan, we carry out each step one by one. But this process isn't fixed. For example, after checking the threat information, it turns out that only one user is affected, and there are no devices associated with that user. So, instead of going through all the steps 1, 2, and 3, we stop there. We stop in the middle of the process. And then, after concluding that there are no affected devices, we respond accordingly. So, depending on the context, you make your own judgment, sometimes stopping midway or even changing the plan. And that's how you come up with a response like this. Now, for the next example. This is an agent that was intended to be used as a triaging agent. It diagnoses the SMS message in question, checks the URLs contained within the message, and asks to verify whether these URLs are actually malicious. So, not only does it check whether the SMS message itself is a smishing attempt, but it also plans and executes a workflow step to actually visit the URL links included in the smishing message and further verify whether the content of those URLs is a phishing site or not. And this is the result that came out of that process. Honestly, this single example is quite simple. It's something that anyone can easily do. You just check the message and think, this looks like a smishing message. You click the URL, check the contents of the linked page, and think, this looks like a phishing site. You can just make a judgment like that. If you look at just a single case, that's true. So, in a way, this seems like a very common example, and it's something people can easily do. So you might think, isn't this nothing special? You might think that way. But in an 8-hour workday, a person can only look at a few of these cases, and there aren't many people who can even do that. But if AI can do what a person does, then AI can keep doing this automatically, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it means that you can replicate the same AI and have tens, thousands, or even tens of thousands of agents working simultaneously, allowing you to perform this kind of analysis on a massive scale. In other words, you can duplicate the same task over and over. That's what's so scary about it. Now, for the next example. This time, the request is to check the TI reports related to the given hash files, find out which TI reports are associated with these files, and identify which attacker groups are using these malicious files. In other words, the investigation agent is being asked to combine and organize multiple pieces of TI information and report the results. For this, the workflow is set up like that. Each step is carried out one by one. Up to this point, we've been talking about each of the agents individually. Now, this is the final example, showing what it might look like when this is actually applied to security operations. When a log about a certain activity comes in from an actual endpoint, and it comes in at the alert level, we analyze this activity. Since this activity is something that was detected, we don't have the full set of events. We only have information about a part of the incident that was detected. We only have a portion of the incident. So, by carefully combining comprehensive TI, threat intelligence, information, we diligently try to match exactly what critical events could have potentially happened before this specific incident and precisely what might realistically happen afterwards, utilizing extensive past attack cases and historical data to accurately reconstruct the entire attack scenario. There could have been certain events before the current event, and there could be others after it. And based on past attack cases, we can determine what the most likely attack scenario might be. We make a judgment about this. So, we reconstruct the attack scenario, and then, for this reconstructed attack scenario, we suggest response strategies, analyzing each step as a workflow, gathering the results, and providing an answer. So, by connecting this part to security analysis and operations, we aim to enable AI to handle not just analysis, but also the subsequent response. This is about what's coming next. It's a pretty common thing to say, but I thought I should wrap things up with an epilogue, so I put this together. Yes, this is something Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, has said. Many AI agents will perform knowledge work, but the role of human knowledge workers who coordinate and supervise them will still be essential. That's what he said. The Korean title of the book is Dual Brain. The English title is Core Intelligence, Living and Working with AI, a book that was published in 2024. The book was written by someone named Ethan Mollick. In Core Intelligence, the term collective intelligence comes up. It talks about the concept of intelligence where humans and AI collaborate to amplify each other's abilities. What the book argues is that AI is essentially a cooperative partner. The results that AI produces shouldn't be seen as the final product, but rather as raw materials. It's up to people to read, judge, critique, partially revise, and decide how to use these materials. All of that is the human's responsibility. So, while AI may handle a series of tasks like searching for information, conducting research, and analyzing data, these are not the final results. The prediction is that, moving forward, work will be structured in a way where humans and AI collaborate, with people always having the opportunity to review and verify what AI produces. So, that's the idea. We also believe that AhnLab AI Plus will serve as a collaborative partner in security analysis and operations. It will respond to machine-scale attacks around the clock, 24/7, without rest. And we expect that AI will play the role of a guardian, allowing people to focus more on their core tasks. Therefore, we believe that AI-first products and services will evolve into autonomous operation platforms. That brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening for such a long time. Thank you.